There are nights when you hold a cup you almost dropped, and you tell yourself, I cannot break, not in front of them, not again. So you press the cracks back together with your hands. You smile. You carry on. Tonight, set the cup down. There is a story I would like to read to you, a story for those who have learned to hide their breaking. Long ago, in the mountains north of Kyoto, there was a small temple beside a winding stream. Snow fell early there and stayed late. At the edge of the grounds stood a small kiln, half buried in cedar smoke. The old master who lived there was known for two things: the bowls he made and the tea he served from them. People walked 7 days through the forest to drink from his hands. One winter morning, a young man arrived at the gate. He was 22, his sandals were wet, and his eyes had not slept. He had come, he said, to learn from the old master how to live a life that did not break. He had heard, in the village below, that the master kept a secret, that some people passed through the world without ever shattering, and that he wanted to be one of them. What he did not tell the old monk was this. 6 months earlier, he had built something he loved, a small workshop, a life, a person he was making promises to. And one rainy day, all of it had come apart in his hands. He had stood in the wreckage, and he had felt himself crack from the inside, like a bell struck once too hard. Since then, he had been afraid to be touched, afraid to be held, afraid that one more day would finish the breaking. The old master did not ask the young man why he had come. He only said, "Sit, the water is almost ready." And so the young man sat on the worn mat, his hands cold, his chest tight, and watched the master move slowly between the kettle and the shelf. The kettle hissed. The wind moved the paper screen. A long time passed in which nothing was said, and in which the young man's heart did not quite know what to do with itself. At last, the master returned with a bowl. The young man looked down and saw a crack. A long, jagged crack that ran from the rim almost to the foot of the bowl. He almost laughed. He had walked 7 days through snow to be served tea and something broken. Was this a test? A trick? Was the old master so poor that he had nothing whole to offer his guests? The young man's pride rose in him like a small heat. As the master poured, the young man saw it. The crack was not empty. It had been filled, slowly by hand, over many years, with gold. The tea ran down the inside of the bowl, and the gold caught the lamplight, and the whole crack glowed like a vein of warm light inside the cold clay. "Drink," said the master. The young man lifted the bowl. He drank. The tea was bitter and good, and the bowl in his hands was warmer than anything he had held in months. When the bowl was empty, the master spoke. "I made this bowl 30 years ago. It was perfect then. Smooth, white, without a single mark. 6 years later, I dropped it, and it broke into 9 pieces. I sat with the pieces a long time. Then I went down to the village, and I asked the goldsmith to teach me how to join them with gold. So the wound would not be hidden, but seen." He paused. "It is the only bowl I serve from now." The young man did not answer. He could not. He sat looking at the empty bowl, at the gold seam, at the place where the broken edges had been brought back together and made beautiful. And something in him quietly gave way. Not the cracks. Those stayed, but the long effort to hide them. He felt, for the first time in months, that the cracks in his own chest might also be lines, not wounds. That perhaps the light he had been hiding was the only light he had to give. You who watch this now, somewhere in you, there is a crack you have been pressing back together with your hands. You have been afraid that if anyone saw it, they would set you down. But the old story says otherwise. The break is not the end of the bowl. It is where the gold goes. Tonight, before you sleep, lay one hand over the place that hurts, not to fix it, only to let it be seen by you for the first time.